conversations about time. I think that the heart, which has the tuning beat, the heartbeat, is the actual regulator of time. I think our heart is actually what produces time in a way, or the perception of time, the dilation and contraction of time. I think it has to do with our heart, the state that our heart is in. Of course, I am speaking about the energetic heart, basically, not necessarily the physical vascular one. Although the physical vascular one, I think it has to do also with the perception of time in physical reality somehow. So the heart, I feel, is the internal clock in a way, the regulator of our perception of reality, and not only of time but also of space. So I feel that somehow the heart regulates the time and space continuum somehow, and there is no causal time, there is no linear time, there is just our own heart which creates time and space. It's our own heart which creates or uncreates in a way the density of matter. So somehow if our heart is dense and weighted down by what probably Kiran Last would have described as attachments and desires. But the situation might be a bit more complex than that. But in simple terms, if our hearts are weighted down, then the material world produced and experienced seems very dense. Time and space become dense, fixed, and seemingly unchangeable. But as our own heart, in a way, is lighted up more and more, then the time-space continuum, let's say, becomes much more flowable, much more morphable, much more changeable. Actually, I have the sensation that reality could be changed really easily if we could change somehow the internal constitution or chemistry of our heart, or soul as well, because we need to introduce the soul here as well. Basically, in a way, the heart and the soul are kind of interconnected somehow. And because I have now to get to a certain location and I'll have to stop this recording, I'll end it by adding a last insight here, an internal feeling again that I have about this. It's because then that the heart is the regulator and at the same time generator and experiencer of the time-space continuum. I feel that will, the force of will in and of itself, has to do with this trait of producing, experiencing and regulating the time-space continuum. So because will pertains to the heart, it's like the force of will has power over time and space. So us with our own will, if we know how to truly and properly use it and engage with it, we have the ability to fluctuate in a way the time-space continuum. It's the will of the heart which has this ability. This is what creates the so-called miracles. This is why you would see, for example, those extreme examples where I remember in my youth, in my childhood somehow, or maybe in my 20s, I remember hearing about this case in which there was this man which was working to repair a car, and he was working under the car. And this man was working outside of his house, and his mother was nearby. And I remember that at some point there happened this occurrence, this accident. Something happened while he was working under the car, and the car fell on him. And the mother saw and immediately ran, and somehow in those moments I remember she was able to pull the car up from him because it was squeezing him. He was already unable to move from there because the car fell on him. But the woman, what she did is like she pulled the car off and she held the car off, like she held the car lifted from one side or something until like for minutes or something, until somebody saw and came, and they were able to come and pull the man from the car so the car wouldn't fully, kill him and squeeze him, and he was able to be saved. So imagine the force of love that mother felt for her son, that in those moments her heart was able to sum up such an intense willpower that she was able to hold that car lifted, which has usually around 1.5 to 2 tons on average. So maybe she didn't lift the entire thing, but she lifted hundreds of kilograms, And she held the car lifted for minutes. This was not just lifting it and that's it. I remember the case, and it was for minutes that she was staying like that. So that's the power of will. That's the power of what will can do to time and space and to reality. It can create miracles, the so-called perceived miracles. And I believe it can do a lot more that we are just unaware, because these type of cases are never presented or rarely presented in the news But will is a time and space bender. You can bend reality using the power of your will. And here I also need to say that your will has to be pure. If you use your will to will impure things which have nothing to do with your, let's say, the true story or the true script that is inscribed within your heart by your spirit, then you won't have willpower. You only have true willpower when your life is aligned with the true script and the true story that beats within your heart. Only when you start walking on that true path of your heart you can experience the power of your true will. Because free will is an illusion. Free will is an illusion. It's an actual act against humanity, in an act against true spirit. There is zero such thing as free will, and you should stay as away as possible from wanting free will or desiring to exercise free will. Free will is the devil in a way. But true will comes from spirit. True will is that which you cannot create nor change. It's that which is created already within you. And you can only identify, you can only work to identify that true will and act according to it. It's the so-called thy will be done. You cannot invent your true will. It's already inscribed within your heart and you can only find it. And then the first step is to identify it, and then the second step is to act according to it. Because you can know it. Sometimes we can know what's the right thing to do, but then we lack the courage, let's say, or the determination to act upon it, and then we lose that opportunity for sure. So the idea here is that when we invest more and more faith, more and more power of our heart into the true will which already exists inscribed within our hearts, that's when magic starts to happen. That's when the so-called miracle starts to happen, because that's when, let's say, you start fueling up, start giving your life force, your belief, your faith, your power to something which is pure, to the true will which is pure and inscribed within your heart. But if you try to use and put your power and life force in any type of free will and act according to what your mind believes to be correct, because it was trained by this reality to think in a way or another way, and you try to be a good fellow or be a good citizen, be a good individual. I'm not saying that might not be part of your true will, by the way. But I'm just saying in general that if you just use your mind and try to achieve the things which your mind has been trained that those things have to be achieved, because that's how things are done and that's how you're a successful individual or a good human being, and you try to achieve those things which have been, let's say, promoted as being the icon of success, the icon of, human success and goodness, then you'll use your force, you'll use your will force and your heart power and your life force and your faith for nothing. Because if you go into those wrong directions and you try to pursue those type of wrong paths, you will lose life energy, you will lose basically life force and the power of your heart, and nothing will get manifested. You will always be frustrated, no miracles, nothing. You'll try to pursue those wrong directions with all that you can, but it's just, you will see just minimum results. It's almost like, it's like building castles on a shore, sand castles on a shore. You will build them, it will stay there once you guard them, but if you leave them overnight, the water is gonna wash them and you wake up in the morning, there's nothing there, you have to start all over again. This is what happens when we pursue the wrong paths. But again, to end this recording, when we pursue the right path and we act according to the true will within our hearts, then that's when true power meets true vision, the true vision and the true will of our hearts. And when you combine true power with true vision, you get miracles. You get magic. That's how magic is created. And that's what we can do with the will of our hearts. We can choose to put all our entire will of our hearts, all our entire power, all our entire faith and belief and life force towards the vision and the true will which already exists inscribed within our hearts. And that's when the entire matter around the time-space continuum starts to bend to our will. It's only like that. This is how you can walk. And this is the only true way to walk this path, basically. To walk this path from, let's say, the world of hell, which was this world of distortions and false paths, to the world of heaven, the true heaven. Not the fake heaven, but the true, real, magical existence. You align the will of your heart You align the force of your heart, your faith, your power with the true will which exists within your heart, and then the entire matter, the time-space continuum, is here to bend to your will. It's only when you start serving the true will within your heart, which is the will of spirit, that the entire matter, of course, starts bending to your will, because matter, again, is the feminine. She's the cosmic feminine, and spirit is the cosmic masculine. And the cosmic feminine, always, she's created to listen to the cosmic masculine. So, of course, she will bend to your so-called will, but in this case, it will not be your will anymore. It's just gonna be the will of spirit. So, of course, she's bending to the will of spirit, because this is their dance. This is how they are designed to function. This is their normal and correct functionality. Okay, so I'll leave this recording for this. Time-space continuum can be bended if we learn how to act upon the true will which is inscribed within our hearts. And it is will itself that has this power to bend the time-space continuum, provided we are using the true will, which again comes from spirit, and it is inscribed within our hearts. We can't create it nor destroy it, it's just there. And in the same way in which true will has this magical, miraculous power, the false free will has no power at all to bend anything in this reality. Actually, you'll be bended by this reality each time you try to use free will and attain the things. Use free will to attain the so-called, cheap advertised things, plastic advertised goals, goals of plastic and rubbish that this reality tries to sell, that we should pursue those goals, those false goals. If you use your free will, this reality will never bend to your will, because Mother, the Holy Mother, the cosmic feminine, will never, in a way, bend to the devil. So you'll just experience the same reality bending you, which is the devil itself, basically. Let's just say it. Screwing you up, in a gentle way to put it, It's the devil itself which is bending you each time you want to bend the devil, basically. Because each time you use free will, you're interacting with the word of the devil. Free will, it's its type of will. So you try to use free will against the devil to bend the devil to your will. Ha ha! God, it's like, well, expect to be bended. That's all I can say. Okay, so I'll leave this recording to this. And yeah, it's time we rejoin with the true will, which is already inscribed in our hearts. It's time for the magical existence to surge once again. We have the power, we have everything in our hands. We have all the means to do this. It's time that the Cosmic Mother meets again with the Cosmic Father through us, which we are their product, which is love. It's time the miraculous begins.